Our actions are driven by our emotions, which are driven subconsciously by what are the thoughts that we're thinking. Sometimes the knowing of yeah, I don't feel like doing this, but I still can follow through with this. I am strong enough. I'm able to do this. So it's really having people start creating that awareness of their emotions and those thoughts that are creating the emotions. So that even though when things they don't feel like doing it and we're not motivated and we don't have that drive there, we still are strong enough and we build that resilience and that self-confidence in ourselves to still follow through with we know which is that better.
What is up, Impact Heroes? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Ornelas. Thank you for spending some time with us today because we know time's a valuable resource and we're going to make it worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you, not just for listening, but for who you are. I know you're sparking change to make the world a better place every day, and I am humbled and grateful for your efforts. It takes all of us doing our part to spread positive change, and that's what this show is all about. Motivating you with stories of struggle, courage, and hope to empower you to make a difference in your life and the lives of others.
In case you missed it.
What is up, Impact Heroes? We have a very special episode today as we celebrate the highlights from 2024. Wow, it was an incredible year. We had some phenomenal guests of all different types from lots of different industries, anywhere from celebrities to athletes to musicians, you name it. All people that are making a difference and spreading positive change in our world. So you don't want to miss this episode.
Available everywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome back, Impact Heroes. Today we have the pleasure of speaking to our latest iSpark Change social impact hero, and she is a special one indeed. Our guest today has been dedicated to empowering executives, entrepreneurs, and leadership teams for over 20 years. She specializes in helping leaders overcome stress and overwhelm through practical, actionable tools that drive personal and professional growth. It's right up my alley. She's compassionate, transformative, with a high degree of self-awareness, super important, emotional intelligence, and self-care, all important things that we've talked about on the show. She knows how to cultivate resilient, confident, and empathetic leaders, which is very important in today's world. She plays an active volunteer role with the Entrepreneurs Organization Network. She's held leadership positions, including forum chair for EO Minnesota, and regionally, she has pioneered initiatives like virtual forums for significant others and key executives, extending the reach and impact of EO's offerings. She's someone who fosters community, encourages vulnerability, helps develop leadership skills, and is an all-around great human being. So please welcome the enthusiastic, persuasive, empowering, and adventurer and devoted mother, Cathi Williams. Cathi, welcome to the iSpark Change podcast.
Hey, thanks, Rick. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. And we were talking off air for a second there, and I know our listeners are going to be excited to learn more about you.
Awesome. It'll be fun to be here.
So we have you on the program, Cathi, because we consider you what we call a social impact hero. So someone, by our definition, who is improving the lives of others, who is spreading positive change, who is making the world a better place. Inherently making the world a better place. So we consider you a hero. The question I have for you, the same question we always ask all of our guests. First question off the top of the bat is, do you consider yourself a hero?
It's there's a part of me, it's like there's still that subconscious of me that's like, oh, what I'm doing isn't a hero. It's just me being me. But when I truly look at the definition of a hero, my passion, my mission is to help people live the best they can live, and live their best lives possible. So within that definition, I would say yes.
Okay, good. Good. Because we keep it really simple. We have an acronym, honors their purpose, engages their audience in their mission, ripples their message to others to spread positive change, and then opens their heart to the world. And so in the work that you do, I would say that, all those are like check, 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 right? That you do all these things. So sometimes people, and, honestly, Cathi, I'd say it's probably like a 70-30 split of, 70% that will say no off, at first response. And then, they kind of need a little convincing and, just with a little humility, and then about 30%. And I really am hoping that the more people realize that all of us can do heroic things on a daily basis, that the more people realize, it's in the little things that, sometimes are the most heroic, that will change. And that, as this show continues, we're on like episode 150, but as it continues, that, that'll be more, 30/70, with people saying that they do consider themselves heroes.
I love it.
So obviously you didn't, wake up doing that, doing what you're doing. So share with our audience, how did you start doing the work that you're doing, and how did you get on that path?
So my path started as a personal trainer and helping people just in that physical ability of their bodies. So, how do they get personally stronger, whatever their goals were there. And eventually, after about 10 years of doing that, I started getting fatigued because I didn't see people changing their lives and I saw people getting stuck. And as I transferred out of working with a big, corporate Lifetime Fitness and moved over to a wellness coach with United Healthcare Optum, I still worked. I saw how much stress was there. And then I moved out on my own with any generic wellness coaching. So it would include anything to make the person feel better. And I noticed that it didn't matter if it was a physical or if it was a nutrition goal or was trying to improve in the workplace or how to reduce stress. A lot of times we know what to do, but we get in our own way.
Yeah.
And that's when really started getting curious about, well, what's next? Like how do we be the best version of ourselves so we can feel better and be the best version we can, you know, and how do we stop getting out of our own way?
Yeah, I've been involved in that and continue to be involved in that. I was a CrossFit coach for a decade, and have been fitness and health has been a part of my life and my wife's life, as long as we've known each other. And, over 30 years. And in that time, I've had some of those same frustrations as it sounds like you had with people that I've coached, in different capacities, because as one of my mentors put it, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. And so I think, especially with just the accessibility of information online, that everybody pretty much knows what to do to be healthy, or how to exercise, or how to, or like, you could, do a search and have, a dozen workouts in half a second, to fit anyone's needs. But what have you really found are like those motivating factors, either that prevent people from, doing what they should do, or what have you found helps to motivate people in the right direction? Like, you can answer both, or either,
Yeah.
either or.
The so I really looked at, like, if I break it down into our actions are driven by our emotions, which are driven subconsciously by what are the thoughts that we're thinking.
Hmm.
So we'll keep going on the example of the exercise theme. Alarm goes off at 5 a.m. And if a thought goes through your head of like, oh, this bed is so warm and comfortable, I'm gonna stay in bed.
Hmm.
It's gonna create an emotion of, that, you're not gonna be motivated. You're not gonna feel that motivation to go there. And people are looking, they want that motivation or they're looking for a good feeling to drive them somewhere. However, we have to catch that thought when we have it or notice when we have those thoughts go and what those are so we can actually say and just kind of start changing them. So maybe it's something of the okay, I know that, you know, this bed is warm. However, I will XYZ. I'll do this. Or sometimes the knowing of the, yeah, I don't feel like doing this, but I still can follow through with this. I am strong enough. I'm able to do this. At
Yeah.
that. So it's really having people start creating that awareness of their emotions and those thoughts that are creating the emotions. So that even though when things they don't feel like doing it and we're not motivated and we don't have that drive there, we still are strong enough and we build that resilience and that self-confidence in ourselves to still follow through with we know which is that better thing to do.
Yeah, and then what I've seen, I think that's 100% correct. I'd agree with you completely, because all decisions are based on emotion that we make as human beings, and so going to that core, that base level of that thought, and kind of nipping it in the bud before someone goes down that rabbit hole, and like, okay, well, I'm just going to stay in bed, right? I'm just gonna
Yeah.
stay in bed because it is nice and warm. I mean, that was, my wife and I are up at 4 to go work out, and she will coach a class and teach class, and this morning, I mean, the temperature where we live here in Houston has dropped. So it was like in the 30s, right? And so, we have just barely put the heater on a couple days ago. Where we live, it's typically AC, but so it was exactly what you're describing. It was like, oh yeah, the bed's warm, and but I mean, we've done it for so long, we're just used to it. We know that we can get past that, but I can see how that's can be a motivating factor for people that just, oh, what's nice and cozy. I'm just gonna stay in this protective environment and just enjoy myself. So how have you worked with people to help? Because one of the things I said about you is your self-awareness, right? So I
Mhm.
gather that you've worked on being more aware in yourself and your journey. So talk about that, about how you've been able to improve your self-awareness, to make yourself a better version of yourself, and then how you've translated that to others.
Yeah, I mean, my self-awareness started, I mean, I think the biggest growth I had is when I went through my last training. It was through the life coach school, and they use the model, which is kind of where I work a lot off of like circumstances truly in life, they're neutral, but it's our thoughts that create emotions, which give us our actions and create results for us. And there was this awareness that I created of noticing, like, sometimes I would be acting, and so there'd be times I will remember being, like, grumpy in the kitchen and kinda giving my husband the cold shoulder, my kids, and not talking much, and the reason I was doing that is because of how I was feeling. It was all these emotions that I brought on and these things that I was thinking that weren't true at all. I had a different resentment of all the tasks, I mean, the kids were just babies at the time and just toddlers that I had, and I realized that he actually didn't have any of those thoughts at all, those negative thoughts about me, but I was creating them myself. And so I really started being aware of, one is like when I'm acting a certain way that I don't want to act, is I have to start really starting to take time and I have to process my emotions. I have to really start understanding, what am I feeling and why am I feeling that in there.
Yeah, and then in that awareness where you I guess it's pausing and really sitting in that and understanding where it's coming from. What have you used to help others start to get to that place? I mean, was it a book that you read, or a coach you had, or what's really helped you to improve that
Yes.
would others could look at as well?
Yeah, so the training I had as a life coach has really helped me be able to help others within that process. And then I applied it to my own self too. So the first step is just understanding, a lot of times it's just even sitting with an emotion and being okay with an emotion. A lot of times, even when we're feeling negative or we're feeling sad or stressed out, we want to push it away and we want to
Hmm.
get rid of that. And the best thing to do sometimes is just sit and be aware of, like, I'm really upset or I'm hurt right now,
Yeah.
and that's okay to be there. And then you can process that and feel, and like feeling that, and that'll help you become actually a better person, because usually when we don't feel it, we instead, that's where I'll use the term buffer. So we're looking for that temporary hit of a dopamine, and that's where overeating or drinking can come into play. So any of those, not true addictions, but it's like that verge of that halfway of like you're doing something in excess of something that is normal, but we're doing it in excess to feel better, to you know not have to feel that negative pain.
Yeah. And in that, journey where you're learning that and you're going through your training and everything, did you find that it was easier to do on yourself, or that it was harder to do with yourself, being like essentially your own coaching client?
It's there are so many things. So throughout my process, I mean, I've also been coached too. So I've had a few different coaches, and there's so many times that I'm too close to my own issues and I actually need another coach to help ask me the right
Hmm.
questions
Yeah.
and help bring me awareness of what's really going on, or how I'm kind of biased in a way of thinking, and because I have my little tunnel vision on and all I can see is based on what I know, and I need somebody else to open up to help me see what else is out there and what else can be real and what else can be true.
Yeah, I asked because I know I've struggled with the same thing, right? I mean, I've coached hundreds of people over the past 9 years, and I've I have a degree in communication. I've studied communication for over 30 years. And just over the holidays, Thanksgiving time, we were visiting some family, and I wasn't communicating with one of my sisters very well, right? And my wife was right there in the, in the exchange. And afterwards, she had to point out, she's like, you teach people this every day, right? You understand people for a living. Like you do behavioral analytics and everything, and you do that, but yet you couldn't realize what you were doing, in the moment. And and that's where, I know for me that self-awareness piece, it's something that requires continuous attention, right? It's not something that you're like, oh, now I just know how to be self-aware, and that's just always going to be the case. I mean, have you found that for yourself, that you just have to
Oh my gosh.
constantly work on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's something that, I mean, I've had multiple coaches and there'll be moments in my life where I'm like, I'm good, I'm great. I'm like, I got this. And then I start noticing like my old habits, or not all of them come in the way, or even just new things surface where I realize just it's almost like this new journey. It's like a new layer of like peeling the onion of the and now I'm doing this, and this is my issue, and this is what's causing that. And so there's this new level of awareness that'll rise that'll just completely like, you know, blow me up. And it's amazing just to, yeah, dig a little bit deeper and have that outside perspective to because it is a continual journey.
Yeah, what just came to mind is, it's like the layers of onion, right? You're like
Yeah.
constantly peeling back and peeling back and peeling back. I think it was in Shrek or something, where he's talking about, that having multiple layers, right?
Uh,
And I think that's what it is with the self-awareness piece. Is it's just constant, because we're, not only are there multiple layers to who we are as individuals, we're constantly evolving. So we're constantly changing and constantly growing,
yeah.
as those individuals. So you talked a little bit about your mission in the beginning, and you just kind of, said it really quickly, but that's a key component, Cathi, of being, a social impact hero, as we described. So how do you really honor that your purpose and your mission? How do you honor that on a daily basis?
Yeah. So my mission is my personal mission. I created it over 10 years ago, is to serve and encourage and empower other people to live um, their most impactful life and the best version of themselves. And it really is, especially when I think of empowering people as a coach, or even as I move throughout as being a mom or a mentor to other people. I don't want to just tell them what to do. I'm really
Mhm.
there to empower them, to help them learn the tools so they know how to help themselves. Because I think that we're all on a mission of, as we all want to be better people. We all ideally want to feel good. We all want to have success in our lives. We all want to be loved. And when we're all on this journey, no matter where we're at in there, we don't want constant help nonstop. And I
Mhm.
think it's kind of like a personal trainer is like, yeah, it's nice to have that assistance, but eventually it's nice to. So if you go on vacation, how do you do this when you don't have somebody next to you?
Yeah.
How do you do this on your own? So really empowering people and serving with them in there. So I love working with youth and helping empowering them. I think of how, like, where would I be if I actually had the knowledge I had now as an adolescent? Like, if I had that emotional intelligence, I think of entrepreneurs that don't know or don't have that ability to have that emotional intelligence now. But if they can learn it and teach it to the next generation of kids, what difference will that make in the world? And that ripple effect of creating an awareness and having an emotional intelligence and be able to speak with people with compassion and kindness and curiosity instead of judgment.
Yeah, that's a fantastic, you paint a beautiful picture, and that's, exactly what we're working on with iSpark Change. Is the same thing, is that ripple effect, people being more aware, people making changes to help one another. And I've thought about the same thing as you have about, man, I wish I knew some of these things, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, however long ago, what that impact it would be. And, you know, I personally believe that, all those battle scars or road rash, or,
Mhm.
those challenges that we have to overcome, or those, valleys we have to traverse through, all those things that we're better off for it, my belief is that God uses, all those to make us better. And
Absolutely.
And so, every time I think of those thoughts, I'm like, yeah, but then, I wouldn't be the person that I am today, right? It'd be some different version. And so, so I think we're probably both right where we should be, and we'll continue to, have to grow and learn and, change.
Absolutely. I tell people because some part of the journey that I found that sometimes people go through is they actually do go through a point of this guilt of if I only knew, or
Mhm.
they have this story of the past and all this regret that they have. And there's an amazing experience. Like, how can you rewrite your story to show the positive of, yes, this happened, but this is where I learned from it, and this is where I grew. And to rewrite your story in a way that isn't just this has this negative energy to it can be such a powerful experience.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think more people, especially in the kind of, negatively influenced world that we live in, more people need to have that hindsight of looking back and saying, wow, how far have I come, right? I've gone through
Yeah.
this. I've overcome all those things I talked about, those challenges that, when you're stuck in the mud, it's hard to see that, oh, well, yeah, well, that's where I am here. But look what, where I was before, right? Just a year ago, 6 months ago, or 5 years ago, you know, and yeah, it's that perspective. It's that having that perspective, which sometimes, having a coach like yourself, that's where, that coach can come in to provide that perspective that someone can't see on their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in your work, who is the, for our audience, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of individuals that are interested in making themselves, best version of themselves and everything. So who is the a typical person that you would work with, or, business or client or something like that?
Yeah, I work with a lot of executives and some entrepreneurs. And usually what happens is they're a point of almost a transition. A lot of people I work with are in some type of transition. So about to go through transition, wanting to go through transition in their life, and they realize that they're stuck with where they want to be at. So there's some entrepreneurs I've worked with that have family battles. So what they want in a business, and they own a business with a family member, is not what the other person wants. And so
Yeah.
how do they get through that? Not only just the business dynamics, but that family dynamics
Yeah. Yeah.
in
It's
that.
tough.
So having that understanding and how do you communicate to one another and respect each other and have an understanding too of the things, some things that are, they just are, and we can't change the other person.
Yeah.
There's a
For
lot of entrepreneur or otherwise executives that I work with that they're trying to be a better leader. They want to build their executive teams. They see a lot of turnover and, maybe they're stressed out and burnt out themselves. So how do they become that positive, better leader without feeling so overwhelmed?
Yeah, and that's great work that you're doing, or great, group that you work with, because I feel it's our responsibility as, quote unquote, leaders to show others the way. And in our journeys and the things that we've learned, and the experiences that we've had, to pass that on, right? That we're, it's our duty to pass that and share it with those that haven't been through those situations, or kind of guide them, not to make it easier for them necessarily, but just to provide some of that perspective and that wisdom,
Yeah.
that will give people the opportunity to, maybe make a better choice, or, take a slightly different path that's going to, work for them, their own path, something that is going to be, maybe better suited. And so super important work, and, something that we honor and respect, at iSpark Change.
Awesome. Love it.
So Kathy, before we, ask our final questions and wrap up, one thing we talk about is spark moments on the show.
Mhm.
And spark moments, those are moments in our lives where we're able to impact another, or, another person impacts us, and we don't always see that impact right away. It's that one act that, you mentioned the ripple effect, and we talk about that all the time, is we don't always see that effect right away, but then there's that ripple effect that goes far and beyond that initial act, like the pebble in the pond, right?
Yep.
So share an example of a spark moment, in your life, where either, you impacted someone else, or they impacted you, that you didn't see it right away, but then, down the road, you realize that had a significant impact.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of those things of Oh, especially the impact of, really where I think of when I don't see the impact of people that they made on me, I really think back as like to my parents, and I think of like I know that the impact that I'm making on my children every once in a while, how shocked I'll be that I'm like, oh, that's actually sunk in for you.
Yeah,
And
yes.
so,
Do you have
uh,
teenagers?
yeah, 12-year-old and a 10-year-old boy, so
Okay, so close, yeah.
they're
So that's that
close.
age where yeah, yeah, I get
Yeah,
it.
and so I really think back to the lessons that I learned even as a child from my mom and just that the kind and compassionate that she was there, and even some of those old school sayings such as, treat your neighbor as yourself, and
Mm,
just but those small little everyday actions that she did, and that positive affirmations that she would give us, and the way that she would just love on us just exactly at who we are, didn't really realize how important and impactful that was probably until I was even a mom,
yeah.
or even I was caring for others and doing some other things. I think that is the greatest, or the biggest, like, aha moment that I've had of, like, how somebody could impact my life, or I did impact my life, and I didn't know about it till later.
Yeah, that's a beautiful example of a spark moment. And I'd say, we've had, hundreds on this show, and not you may be the first or only the second person to talk about, their mom in that capacity. Because, I think moms often get overlooked, right? Because they're mom, right? They're
Yeah.
supposed to be, supposed to do all these things. And I was realizing that just last week when I was, visiting my mom, for the holiday. And yeah, that's just a beautiful example. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Of course, yeah. It's Yeah, as a mother and to all mothers, I know we don't have that validation, and we don't validate enough. I know I don't even validate my mom, because even as a 40-year-old with a 10 and 12-year-old, there'll still be moments I go through, and I'll be like it will be that random, like, spark this, like, "Oh, she did this for me," or, "Oh,
Yeah.
wow, this is what had happened," and it's those little moments that can go unappreciated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fantastic, fantastic. So before we ask our final question here on the show, Kathy, where can our audience learn more about you, connect with you, and find out about all the amazing things you're doing?
Absolutely. My website or any of my social media, if you search up Happy Healthy Leadership, my website is happyhealthyleadership.com. There you'll be able to find what I'm up to and connect with me.
I love the website domain, by the way. Happy Healthy Leadership. Yeah, that's perfect.
Thank you.
So yeah, fantastic marketing there. Okay, so everything's been fantastic. So one final question here, Kathy, that we ask all our guests on the iSpark Change podcast, because our goal is to positively impact 1 billion people within 5 years of launching our upcoming social impact social media community.
Mhm.
Now, we know we can't do it alone. We know we need the help of impactful leaders like yourself to help show others the way, just like I talked about, because many people feel, as I once did, that they're too small to make a difference, right? That they're not, necessarily changing the world, doing world changing work. So we value your thoughts and opinions as a social impact hero. So I want you to peer into the future, into our, iSpark Change crystal ball, and tell me, what can the world become if everyone starts believing that they can change the world and impact the future?
When I envision the world and the social impact that we can make, I look at our society, especially after I'm in Minnesota. So the effects of George Floyd, I really see firsthand. But I see a community where people are kind to one another and they speak with compassion and out of curiosity, and that we can approach one another like brothers and sisters and realize that we truly are the same. I love saying that we're all perfectly imperfect people. So we are
Yeah.
perfectly created, but we are all have imperfections in us. But at the same time, we are perfectly as we are supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very well said. Well, thank you very much, Kathy, for taking time to share your heart and wisdom with our audience. You came in, you over delivered as I expected you would. Your desire to inspire and impact others is evident, and you're filled with passion, empathy, and you lead with a heart of service and gratitude, which tells me you're going to continue to have success in all facets of life. And this is only the beginning of your time as a social impact hero.
Thank you, Rick. It's great being here today.
All right, Impact Heroes, it's our stories that connect us all, and we loved hearing Kathy's today. Cathi Williams, you're not only an inspiring and amazing human being, you truly are an iSpark Change social impact hero. We'll see you all next time.
Do you want Rick to speak at your event? Here is what others have to say.
Did not know his story, and it was so inspirational, and his presence on stage, his authenticity was just incredible.
Performance made me feel some type of way. My name is Craig Siegel.
If you're looking for a speaker for your next event, hire Rick. I promise you this, you will not be disappointed.
Visit rickcornelis.com to book him today.
Remember, Impact Heroes, every positive action can be a spark moment that has a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. So go out there and spark change. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, then please smash that 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. We value your comments and we want to hear from you in the community. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the iSpark Change podcast.